If your meeting is quiet, it's not because your team has nothing to say, it's because your prompt makes speaking risky and improv heavy. In the next minute, I'll give you a script that gets everyone talking, and I'll show you what to do when the room still freezes. You ask a question to your team and nobody says a word. You're met with that heavy, awkward silence where everyone suddenly finds their notebook very interesting. It's easy to assume this means a lack of ideas or that your colleagues aren't interested. But that's usually wrong. Most managers think people are being difficult, but the real issue is social risk and the pressure of immediate improvisation. When you ask for any thoughts, you are asking people to gamble their professional reputation on an unpolished, half-baked idea. It feels dangerous to speak first. I'll give you a specific 4-step script to get at least 3 distinct voices contributing within 5 minutes. We're aiming for a clear decision without making anyone feel like they've been put on the spot. Once we understand that silence is a safety mechanism, we can change the prompt to lower the barrier. We need to move away from the open floor format because it only rewards the loudest thinkers. Instead, we want a structure where the quietest person feels just as prepared as the person who always has an answer ready. You have to be the architect of the conversation, not just the person asking questions. Start by explicitly stating the goal. You might say, "We're aiming for a clear decision by the end of this session, and I want to ensure everyone has a chance to speak." This sets a professional tone. It tells the team their input isn't just a courtesy, it's a requirement for the project's success. It also signals that the meeting isn't going to be an endless debate. There is a finish line, and you are going to lead them there. Now, you implement the silent right. This is the most effective tool in your kit for breaking dead air. Ask everyone to take 60 seconds to write down one specific concern and one potential solution regarding the topic at hand. By doing this, you've effectively removed the improv penalty. People aren't trying to think and talk at the same time, which is where most of the anxiety comes from. They have time to refine their thoughts and look at their own words before the microphone is live. This minute of quiet gives the introverts time to process and the extroverts time to focus their energy. To keep the momentum high, you must use a time box. Tell the group, "We'll time box this silent reflection to 2 minutes to stay on track." This creates a healthy sense of urgency. It prevents people from overthinking or trying to write a manifesto. You want raw, honest data points, not polished presentations. When the 2 minutes are up, you move directly into a round-robin format. This is where you call on people by name to share just one sentence from their notes. The order matters here. If you are in a remote Zoom or Teams call, use the participant list order from top to bottom. It's predictable and feels fair. If you are in person, simply go around the physical table. By calling names, you remove the who goes first tension. Everyone knows their turn is coming, so they can stop worrying about the timing and focus on what they wrote down. During this phase, you must emphasize that this is a no-debate zone. This is critical for keeping the social risk low while you are collecting the initial data. If someone tries to jump in and argue with a point, you have to shut it down gently but firmly. You can say, "Please feel free to share your thoughts, but we'll hold the discussion until everyone has contributed their headline." This protects the person speaking. It ensures that their unpolished idea isn't immediately torn apart by a peer. What you're doing is building a shared inventory of ideas. By the time you've gone around the room, the dead air is gone. You've replaced it with a list of actual talking points that the team generated themselves. You aren't pulling teeth anymore. You're sorting through a pile of valuable information. This shift from, "Does anyone have ideas?" to "Read me your sentence" changes the entire chemistry of the room. It turns a high-stakes social gamble into a simple administrative task. People find it much easier to read a sentence they've already written than to conjure a brilliant insight out of thin air while 8 people stare at them in total silence. Even when you use a perfect structured prompt, you might run into 2 specific friction points that can stop your momentum. These are common behavioral responses to new meeting structures, and as the facilitator, you need to be ready to address them without breaking the flow of the session. The first challenge usually comes from the passer. Failure mode 1 happens when you get to a team member during the round robin and they say they have nothing to add, or, "John already said my point." This is often a defense mechanism. They might feel like their idea wasn't original enough, or they're trying to avoid the spotlight. If you let them pass, you lose their perspective and signal to the rest of the group that participation is actually optional. You fix this by providing a forced starter. Instead of just nodding and moving to the next person, give them a different angle to explore. You can say, "If your main point was covered, tell us one thing you're still curious about, or one risk we haven't named yet." This small shift in the prompt changes the requirement. You aren't asking them to be original anymore. You're asking them to be observant. Most people have at least one lingering question or a small worry in the back of their mind. By giving them a specific curiosity or risk frame, you make it safe for them to contribute something small that might actually be the most important thing said all day. It keeps the energy moving and ensures that the round robin doesn't just become a series of people echoing the first person who spoke. Failure mode 2 is the early debater. This person tries to solve, critique, or pivot an idea the moment it is mentioned. They usually mean well, but their interruption kills the psychological safety you've built. If someone shares a concern and the early debater immediately explains why it's not a problem, the rest of the group stops being honest. They'll start editing their thoughts to avoid being corrected. You have to protect the process. Your role is to be the guardian of the no debate zone. When this happens, use your authority to pause the interaction. You can say, I'm going to pause the discussion so we can finish the round and ensure everyone has a chance to speak. This isn't a reprimand. It's a boundary. It reminds the group that the collection phase is separate from the analysis phase. You are telling the team that every voice matters enough to be heard without interruption. Once you finish the entire circle, then you can open the floor for debate. Now, if you are running a hybrid meeting, there is an extra layer of complexity. It's very easy for the people in the physical room to dominate the conversation while the remote participants sit on mute, feeling like observers rather than contributors. To solve this, always call on your remote participants first. This signals that their input is just as foundational as the input from those sitting right in front of you. It prevents the room energy from creating a wall that the remote people can't climb over. By the time you get to the people in the room, the remote team has already set the tone and established their presence in the digital space. Before you transition from the round robin into the actual problem-solving or decision-making phase, you need to do one final check. Ask the group, is everyone comfortable with this approach before we move into the problem-solving phase? This might seem like a small detail, but checking in for consent is a powerful move. It prevents the quietest people from feeling steamrolled by the loudest voices later on. It gives everyone a chance to pause and acknowledge the data you've just collected together. When people verbally or visually agree to the next step, they are more likely to stay engaged because they helped build the foundation of the discussion. You've moved from a room of silent individuals to a cohesive group that is ready to tackle the work. Use the silent right in your very first meeting tomorrow morning to turn a silent room into a functional workspace. It works even if the group is small or the topic is simple. In the next episode of Meeting Doctor, we'll look at the opposite problem: how to handle the meeting hijacker who takes up 90% of the airtime. Click here to see how to redirect a dominant talker without creating conflict. Subscribe for more.